don't believe I've ever felt this way about a girl before.
Dookie, we've just met!
You don't believe in love at first sight?
Look, I can see Big Ben!
Hi, how are you? I'm Ray, and welcome to my first review for this channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Bratz movies, specifically Bratz Rock Angelz. And I am honestly shocked that no bigger YouTubers have talked about these movies, because they are truly iconic. If you are unaware of what the Bratz are, the short answer is that they are a collection of fashion dolls that started being produced in the early 2000s and were extremely successful. I owned about 60 of them, I'm being serious, I counted. And like most successful toy brands, they decided to make a bunch of movies and TV shows with them, thus resulting in this mess of a movie I'm going to be talking about today. So without further ado, let us begin watching this masterpiece, shall we? So, the movie starts off by immediately showing us the ending, which in my opinion is like the worst way to start off a movie, because it eliminates any sort of tension or conflict that we see later. There's no point in worrying about any of the situations that the characters get into, because we already know that in the end, everything's going to be okay. In the opening scene, we see our main cast of characters casually washing their car in leather jackets and latex pants. While scrubbing, they hear the radio announce that their song has reached #1, so they're basically famous now, yet they can't seem to afford to go to a car wash. They pull their guitars out of thin air and proceed to ask the audience if we want to see how they became rock stars. And so begins the flashback. They really could have cut this entire scene out and just started with this opening instead, but it's fine. So, if you don't know the main characters in the Bratz cinematic universe, allow me to introduce them to you. We got Chloe, the overdramatic, blonde, ditzy, valley girl type. She's also my favorite character. Yasmin, the sweet, environmental, animal-loving type. She seems like the kind of person to make being vegan her entire personality. Sasha, the overly confident, bossy, sassy, control freak. Can you tell I don't like this character? We will get more into that later. And Jade is... I have watched every single Bratz movie twice now, and I still can't figure out what her main personality traits are. I know she's passionate about fashion, but so are all the other girls. It's kind of their slogan. Sometimes she's got a nerdy, anxious thing going on, and other times she's got more of like a hip, cool girl thing. I'm honestly not sure who Jade is supposed to be. As for the supporting characters, we have Cameron, a skater boy who has a crush on Chloe. Dylan, Cameron's friend and is usually just there for comedy relief purposes. Ethan, he works at the smoothie shop and has a crush on Yasmin. And the Tweevils, a set of evil twins whose entire purpose in life is to be as obnoxious as possible. They work for the magazine company Your Thing, the owner of said magazine company being Birdie Maxwell, who was also the main antagonist of the movie. This opening scene does a pretty decent job at introducing us to the cast of characters. Using a daily horoscope is admittedly a clever way to give us a quick glimpse into Chloe, Yasmin, and Sasha's personalities without it being too obvious or jarring.
It also says you're a major drama queen.
That is so untrue. Achoo! I think I just had an out-of-the-blue arterial explosion.
It's actually not a bad opening at all. So, Jade walks in to tell her friends all about her new job opportunity at Your Thing magazine. Of course, all her friends are excited and supportive when the Tweevils walk in and decide to be annoying for a few minutes. While that's happening, Cameron and Dylan decide that this is the perfect time to dangerously skateboard at full speed around the mini-mall and are surprised when someone gets hurt.
It was an accident.
Don't tell me not to freak, you skater boy!
Ooh, that's gotta hurt.
In what way is that an insult? Anyway, we get some awkward flirting between Cameron and Chloe.
Ha! Awesome moves, Chloe.
Thanks, Cameron. I've got a lot of cool moves.
This is a kids movie. The next scene cuts to Jade's first day working for Your Thing magazine, and we are introduced to Birdie Maxwell.
Mother of Pink!
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that is actually kinda horrendous. The bright, almost neon green with a dirt brown lipstick, and then she's got this white eyeshadow on, like what?
I was thinking that maybe we could do a column on street trends, see what's taking off at clubs, do a quiz fest.
Stop! Your Thing is my magazine. You work for me, and your title is nothing.
I think we're never meant to hate Berdine for calling Jade out like that, but I mean, she kinda had the right to put her in her place there. It's her first day and she's already throwing out ideas like she's second in command or something. So we find out that the Tweevils just happen to also be interning for Berdine. At this point, it's pretty obvious that Jade has already gotten off on the wrong foot and that Berdine will always favor the Tweevils due to the way they dress and present themselves. Cue the montage of Jade struggling to do her chores because the workload clearly wasn't evenly distributed. Feeling discouraged, Jade decides to call Chloe to vent, unaware that the Tweevils have overheard her entire conversation. Now, this next scene has always bothered me. Jade knew who the Tweevils were before starting this job, and them listening in on her private conversation just further proves that they're kind of evil. So why does she ask them for their advice on what to get her boss for lunch? They didn't help you earlier, so why would they help you now? It's like Jade does a complete 180, and it's literally the next scene. I'm not expecting masterful writing when it comes to a freaking Bratz movie. I just want consistency. Also, Jade sorts through the mail, and Berdine deems it all to be junk and spam, even though it contains invitations to some of the hottest parties in town. We'll get to that later, don't worry. Jade follows the lunch advice from the twins. Why? I don't know. And Berdine is unsurprisingly miffed.
What is that?
Your lunch.
So, in an admittedly funny monologue, Berdine proceeds to fire Jade. Not gonna lie, I genuinely laughed when she not only fired Jade, but her future children and grandchildren too.
In fact, even your children and your grandchildren are fired!
That is legitimately hilarious.
Don't worry, Cool Cat. Everything will work out. Jade, you're a fashion superhero.
Debatable. So they go shopping to try to make Jade feel better, and I gotta ask, where do they get the money to buy all these clothes? None of them have jobs, and they're supposed to be underage, so I have to assume it's some kind of allowance, but that still doesn't explain literally everything else that happens later in the movie. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Her career isn't so over. It's just beginning. Oh, really? As a fast food delivery girl?
This is the most barren mini mall I've ever seen. You can always tell how cheap an animated film is just by how empty it feels, or by how many times you can spot the same character model but with different clothing and hair, basically this whole movie. But there are so many backgrounds that feel almost dead. Everything feels extremely stiff and still. Nothing moves, and there's no wind in the trees, no clear source of light or moving clouds. There's a very strange lack of atmosphere. This emptiness is an issue that is prominent throughout the whole film, especially once they get to England, but I'll address it when I get there. By the way, there is a running gag all about how Casey keeps accidentally hurting her healing nose job. It's pretty funny. After trying to cheer Jade up some more, the girls eventually come up with the ingenious plan of starting their own fashion magazine. Chloe, who is usually the ditzy one, actually asks some pretty logical questions about finances and renting an office. Sasha butts in, insisting that she's got them covered. They never explain how Sasha could afford to rent the office space. It just cuts to them moving in. I guess we're to assume that since there are rodents and mildew that she got it cheap, but some clarification would have been nice. Do their parents know about this? How are you going to keep up with an entire business when school starts back up? Shouldn't you find a publisher before renting an entire office? How did you afford this furniture? Why am I questioning the logic of a kids film? So after spackling a little bit and painting over some moldy walls, they somehow managed to turn a revolting health hazard into a revolting health hazard except with paint over it. Seriously, this place needs to be condemned. It's established in an earlier scene that this is the same building where Berdine resides, so the Tweevils show up because apparently they have nothing else to do.
Good one, Casey! Excuse us, but we have work to do. And you have dry cleaning to do. Excuse me? The wet paint? You brats! You totally set me up!
So because of the Tweevils' insults, the girls decide to name their magazine Bratz. Remember that thing about the mail that is addressed to Berdine that I mentioned earlier? Well, it turns out that Jade kept those invitations that is addressed to Berdine. The invitation includes an all-expense-paid trip to London for Berdine with a private jet. Berdine is one person, yet in the next scene we see not only the main four girls but also Cameron and Dylan along for the trip. I guess there was more than one invitation, but if they're paying for your entire trip, I doubt there would be more than a few. So the girls plan to go to London's hot new club Pins in order to get their first big magazine scoop. While on the plane, Chloe meets a British passenger, and he's male, so obviously she's in love with him. He's from London, so his personality is that he's British. His name is Nigel because British, tea and crumpets, politeness, the Queen. Cameron gets frustrated because he has a crush on Chloe, and I hate this type of dynamic when it comes to romance stories. Two characters who are confident in themselves and are constantly dating casually, yet they can't seem to ever ask each other out and get mad when the other one has a boyfriend or girlfriend. It's always frustrating for me to watch. Just ask each other out. Berdine somehow finds out about the tickets and starts to make her way to London so she can grab the scoop first. Meanwhile, the girls settle into their new hotel.
Wow, check out the view!
Forget the view. Let's scoop this Stalin city.
This scene perfectly describes exactly what I was rambling about a few minutes ago. We get a montage of the girls walking throughout London, and you can definitely tell that they didn't have much to work with in terms of landscapes and venues, because instead of actually showing us the places they go to, we get JPEGs. One of the only other locations we see is this brick wall area that will show up a few more times throughout the movie. There are at least a few more people scattered around the London scenes, but it still feels barren and all of the characters look like the same people but with wigs on. So we cut back to their hotel room that looks way too similar to their office back home. They sure do love this pattern. The girls proceed to start their subplots. Chloe and Yasmin plan to check out some of the cool locations for an upcoming article, and Jade and Sasha are in charge of taking pictures of the clothes that some of the people walking around town are wearing. So right before they can head out, Chloe leaves abruptly so that she can go on a date with Nigel. Yasmin appears to be cool with it since it seems like it's only a one-time thing, but obviously things are going to escalate. We then get another scene showcasing how much of a train wreck the Tweevils and Berdine are. They get into a little spat with a male passenger who is important to the story later. I won't get into it now. Why the heck are there loose dogs on a plane? That's not how that works. Also, they reuse the exact same vomit sound effects several times in a row. How hard would it have been to find at least one other sound effect, or to just tell the voice actress to make the sounds? So we cut to the world's emptiest restaurant where Chloe and her date Nigel are. I guess they couldn't be bothered to model some food on their plates. They do a little waltz because British, and afterwards Chloe goes back to the hotel, probably in an empty stomach, and reschedules her plan with Yasmin again, just so she can be with Nigel. We then cut to a low-res shot of Nigel's clip art house where we see that Chloe is playing croquet because British. Yasmin calls in a huff because Chloe forgot about her plans again and eventually decides to just do the article herself. Suddenly, Yasmin finds a stray pupper and decides to keep it despite the risk of it being possibly dangerous or having rabies or something. After an awkward scene of Dylan attempting to flirt, we see that Berdine has finally made it to London and just happens to be checking in at the exact same hotel. How would she know that? She never even so much as glanced at the invitation, so why would she have that information? So while they're out taking pictures, Jade gets rightfully frustrated at Sasha because she hogged the camera so much that it's now out of batteries. And I mentioned this a little bit in the beginning, but I really dislike Sasha as a character. It's hard for me to explain when talking about this movie because she isn't exactly at her worst here. It's more prominent in the TV series where they take her sassy attitude up like 6 notches. Yes, I will be getting to the TV show as well, but I've always found her to be way too controlling and weirdly hostile for no reason. I'm aware that not all main characters need to be perfect sweethearts, and I applaud them for writing a flawed character who was unapologetically herself, but sometimes I find myself wondering why any of the girls ever put up with her. Also, I want you to pay attention to these pictures that Sasha took. I will explain in a minute. So Sasha and Jade hate each other now, and Chloe has decided to be British for some reason.
One pot of tea, please.
As I was saying, croquet requires intense concentration. Isn't that true, pretty princess?
I don't know. I've never played.
Huh?
Oh yeah, Nigel calls Chloe his pretty princess, which is also Yasmin's nickname, so I guess that's supposed to be some kind of conflict, I guess?
If you got something to say to me, say it.
Fine. You are the biggest, bossiest control freak I've ever met. You're even worse than Berdine.
Yeah, that about sums it up. So the girls finally confront Chloe about her priorities and lecture her about how she needs to start focusing more on the magazine and a lot less on Nigel. I mean, you know what they say, chicks before dick. Chloe then reveals that she won't be able to make it to Pins, which is the name of the club that they're supposed to be getting their big scoop at. Going to Pins was the main reason they even went to London in the first place, so obviously Yasmin, Jade, and Sasha are pretty upset about it.
Torn between my very first Duke Charming, and my 3 best friends forever, What's a teenage drama queen to do?
Why does this movie act like it's impossible for Chloe to date Nigel and work on the magazine? She doesn't need to choose between anything, just reschedule your date. This whole thing is so needlessly dramatic. Cameron and Dylan barge in to try to tell the girls about Berdine being in town, but they're too busy being mad at each other. We then get a small montage, and I'm not gonna lie, the songs in this movie are an absolute bop. I even unironically listen to the soundtrack from time to time.
These must be Jade's pictures.
Remember those pictures I mentioned? Yeah, only 2 of those are Jade's pictures, and the other 2 are the pictures we saw earlier from Sasha, except that they're mirrored. How did they think no one would notice this? How hard would it have been to find 2 other pictures? You could have even used a stock photo. I mean, it would still be lazy, but it's better than reusing assets. Later on, Nigel comes by.
You remember Sasha?
Hey. Whatever.
I really hate when people do that.
Surely you must have something that's a little more elegant and understated. You know, like what those 2 lovely girls eavesdropping outside your door are wearing.
How have they not called the police on the Dweevils yet? Sasha apologizes to Jade, and I guess everything's okay now. There's another montage. Meanwhile, at the party...
In case you've forgotten, there's a party inside.
Is there though? I'm pretty sure it's just this balcony that was modeled and rendered. You can't fool me, there's no one in that building. So we get the classic third act breakup between Chloe and Nigel. And honestly, even as a kid, I remember thinking this next part was so hilariously stupid. We see Chloe sadly walking home when her shoe suddenly yeets itself off her foot. She acknowledges her missing shoe but keeps on walking for no reason. Cameron just happens to show up on his motorcycle, and a few questions. Was he looking for her? How did he know she would need a ride home? Was he stalking her? Also, Cameron has always consistently had a motorcycle, but why would he have it here? Like, in London? Did he bring it with him? How did he bring it with him? Why did he bring it with him? I have so many questions. Anyway, Cameron gives her the shoe back, and Chloe's like,
My shoe. You found it.
It was never lost. Like, what? You saw your shoe was gone. What is wrong with you? Later on, the girls forgive Chloe and they all head straight to Pins. So anyway, the Bratz commit identity theft.
Hi, 6 with Bratz? I mean, your thing magazine?
Okay, it's one thing to steal invitations to an event you weren't invited to, but it's a whole other thing to pretend to be the person who was supposed to be there.
I demand that you have these brats arrested for impersonation.
Yeah, she's not wrong about that. So it turns out that the dog that Yasmin found actually belongs to the guy who was on the plane with Berdine in that earlier scene, who also happens to be celebrity judge Byron Powell from the hit TV show America Rocks. This is one of the most iconic characters in the Bratz cinematic universe. He is in all the movies, he's in the TV show. I will get more into his character once I review the Diamonds movie, but for now I don't have much to say. He doesn't do that much in this movie. So Byron rewards the girls for finding his dog by offering them an interview with the newest rock band Crash after the concert tomorrow. The Tweevils are told to steal the tickets to the Crash concerts so that they can be the first to get the latest scoop. Who the heck leaves their hotel door open when they leave? What? Not even 10 seconds ago, we see Sasha showing great concern about keeping the tickets hidden, yet they left the door wide open? Anyway, wacky hijinks. Chloe and Cameron have a moment.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
After Nigel, I'm not so sure.
If someone ever laid on top of me and gave me this look, I would call the police. Wait, so now the door is closed? Did the Tweevils close it? If so, then why?
Oh my gosh, the tickets are gone!
Why didn't Yasmin just take the tickets with her? So Yasmin decides to go out and find Byron to help, which means she has to leave the hotel room again, and instead of waiting for the other girls to arrive, marching over to Berdine's and taking the tickets back, she decides to entrust the most serious and responsible person to keep watch. Dylan. So obviously Yasmin can't just go up to Byron and ask him because he's kind of a celebrity. I don't know what made her think that would work. Dylan sees the Tweevils trying to escape in a scene that I can only describe as ridiculous.
Stop, don't move. Here's some dirty laundry.
Ew, it's the Bratz used underwear!
Cootie alert! Ew!
Dylan Dylan knows who the Tweevils are, so why doesn't he confront them here? Yes, they're covering their faces with pillows, but then they speak out loud and even mention the Bratz by name. How did he throw the laundry bag without seeing their faces? And why does he disappear from this shot? He really wasn't paying attention, was he? So the Tweevils run out the door, and a mere 2 seconds later, Jade, Sasha, and Chloe come back. So how did they not see them running out? It is possible that some time has passed between the Tweevils leaving and the girls showing back up, but if that's the case, they do not convey that very well here. The girls find out about the tickets and assume that it's Yasmin's fault. It kinda is though.
Those tickets cannot be gone.
We've gotta find them. My article depends on it.
The whole magazine depends on it.
Okay, let's not go that far, Jade. There will always be more things to write about. So Yasmin comes back and is weirdly surprised that Dylan told the girls all about the tickets. I mean, what did you expect? It's Dylan. There's like this weird scene where Burdine puts on this outfit and dances around in an attempt to seem hip and cool. It really doesn't affect the plot that much. I just thought I'd mention it.
The bouncer said only bands were allowed in.
No, he didn't say anything. He slammed the door in your face, remember? They find the bandits that came off of Casey's nose from earlier and just now realize that it was the Tweevils who stole the tickets. That was the one thing you were worried about before leaving the hotel, Sasha. Why are you acting like this is the most shocking thing that could happen? So because the bouncer apparently said that they only let bands into the concert, the obvious thing to do would be to give up and go home.
Let's become a rock band!
Or become a rock band, sure. So we get obligatory shopping montage number 65, and after what I have to assume was hours of trying to find the right outfits for their performance, it somehow slipped their minds that you kinda need instruments in order to be a band. So Dylan and Cameron do something useful for once and show up with some guitars that they got from the market for the girls. So like with a lot of let's start a band plots, all of the girls just happen to be musically talented and play their guitars perfectly in sync on the first go without any sort of rehearsal. Where is the percussion coming from? None of them even have guitar straps, so how are they playing while standing?
Our limo is waiting.
Limo!
How can you afford a limo? At the club, we see Nigel again, and there's another Burdina's old joke. These last few scenes with the Burdine and the Tweevils really don't add that much to the plot.
Keep Mr. Space Invader away from us, okay?
Hey!
Wow, identity theft, fraud, and now assault charges. So of course the band that was supposed to play split up before they could go on stage, and they need a new band, and oh, you know what's going to happen. The Bratz offer to play instead of Crash, and okay, I've got a question. If Crash were supposed to perform anyway, why did they even bother to learn a song in the first place? Were they planning to perform? Once they saw Byron, all they would have to do is tell him about the ticket situation, interview Crash, and go home. Why are they so prepared? I love how even though they just got there, they already have a banner made for them. I can't. So the Bratz start to perform their song, and I have to admit, this song is great. I don't really have any snarky remarks for this part. It's catchy, the vocals are amazing, it has a lot of energy, and the music video is really cute. Listening to it brought back so many memories of watching this movie as a child. The nostalgia levels are off the charts. So they finish their first issue of the magazine and go on tour. Burdine develops a binge eating disorder, the Tweevils still work for her for some reason, everybody's happy, and this is when the TV series begins. So, my thoughts. When I used to watch this as a 7-year-old, I thought this movie was so amazing. I just loved how dramatic and downright stupid most of the characters were. Nothing about the plot made any sense, and there were so many animation and continuity mistakes, but I still adored it. And now that I'm a fully grown woman, rewatching this for the first time in 15 years, my opinion has not changed in the slightest. This movie is amazing, and I don't care how flawed it is. I love every second of it.